Have you ever stayed in a relationship longer than you should have, clinging to the hope that love could fix everything, even when it cost you your dignity and self-worth? This story isn't just about a man and a woman. It's about the battle for self-respect, the search for self-love, and the painful yet powerful realization that your value doesn't come from anyone else's approval. As we grow older, we often feel the urge to prove our worth, sometimes sacrificing our happiness to do so. But let me ask you, should love ever require you to abandon your self-respect? In this video, you'll witness the emotional journey of an older man who gave his all to a relationship that slowly eroded his confidence and identity. Despite his best intentions, he found himself trapped in a situation that stripped him of his dignity, until he found the strength to walk away, reclaim himself, and rediscover what truly matters. Why should you keep watching? Because the lessons he learned are vital, especially for those navigating the complex emotions that come with aging and love. By the end of this video, you'll gain insight into the power of self-love, how to recognize when a relationship is damaging your sense of worth, and why sometimes choosing solitude is the bravest and healthiest act of all. This isn't just a story, it's a powerful message for anyone ready to embrace their true value and rediscover their confidence, no matter their age. So, stay with me till the end, and if you haven't already, consider subscribing and tapping the notification bell to support the channel and make sure you never miss a video. If this story resonates with you, please like and share it. It really helps spread these messages. And let me know in the comments, if you appreciated this video, type 1. If not, type 0 and tell me how I can do better. Now, let's begin. In the beginning, everything felt magical, like he'd been given a second chance at a life he thought had already passed him by. She showered him with compliments that felt like sunlight breaking through years of darkness. Her words were perfectly timed, saying just what he needed to hear to feel alive again. She called him strong, wise, and desirable. She said his age brought a depth no younger man could match. Her affection felt real, intoxicating, even. Slowly, he started to believe in himself again, in a version of him he thought he'd lost. Every glance, every smile made his heart race. She made him feel like the only man in the world. Wanting to hold on to that feeling, he bent over backward to please her. He treated her like royalty, doing everything he could to keep her happy. To him, she wasn't just a partner, she was youth, energy, and excitement. But as time passed, small cracks began to appear. At first, they were subtle, harmless suggestions disguised as care. "You really should take better care of yourself," she'd say with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "A man your age shouldn't be struggling like this." He laughed it off. But the comments didn't stop. They came more often, each one chipping away at his self-esteem. The praise that once lifted him now turned into reminders that he was old, out of shape, and not quite enough. The way she spoke changed. Her words carried a tone of superiority. A hint that she was younger, better, more vibrant. He started to feel her disappointment, even in silence. And when she began to mention, casually, at first, that he might be too old for her, it hit like a slap he never saw coming. He started to notice the difference in her tone, her looks, her distance. There was less affection now, more criticism. Still, he convinced himself it was just a phase, a rough patch that time would smooth over. But the turning point came in the most vulnerable part of their relationship. She began criticizing him in bed, using words that shattered his carefully guarded confidence. For a man who took pride in loving deeply and providing emotional fulfillment, her comments cut deep. "You're slow," she said one night, her words sharp and cold. "Predictable. I need more than this." She even compared him to younger men, a comparison he could never win, no matter how hard he tried. It wasn't just his body she attacked, but his very identity as a man, and yet, in the same breath, she'd offer small crumbs of praise, just enough to keep him hanging on. She'd tell him that no one else had ever loved her with such care and devotion, that his tenderness was rare. But even those compliments were laced with mockery. She laughed at his sincere efforts to please her, calling them desperate. He couldn't recognize the manipulation for what it was. All he saw was a chance, a hope, to prove himself, to finally win her over. he endured, believing love required patience and sacrifice. He told himself that if he could just hold on, she'd one day see his worth, but the storm didn't pass. It only intensified. Her words became sharper, cutting deeper, until he barely recognized the man he once was. He began to see himself through her eyes, not as a man of wisdom and experience, but as someone aging and irrelevant, desperately clinging to the illusion of youth. To outsiders, his choice to stay may seem foolish, even pathetic. But love, especially when it turns toxic, can bind people with invisible chains. It wasn't just her beauty or her youth that held him. It was the hope she gave him in fleeting moments. Those rare glimpses of warmth made him believe that maybe, just maybe, things could get better. He was trapped, not only by her manipulations, but by his own desperate need to prove his worth to someone who refused to acknowledge it. The tragedy of his story is its familiarity. How many of us have stayed in draining situations, believing our love could fix what's broken? How often do we let ourselves shrink, thinking our sacrifice will make someone finally see our value? His story is a painful reminder of love's dark side, how it can elevate us one moment and drag us down the next. He wasn't just seeking her approval. He was fighting to reclaim a part of himself he feared was gone. That fight, more than anything, is what ultimately broke him. One night, after yet another argument left his heart heavy and his spirit bruised, he retreated to the quiet of his room. He sat in silence, the weight of everything pressing on his chest, every word echoing in his mind. The words they exchanged kept playing in his mind, each one wounding him a little more deeply than the last. The pain of constantly feeling belittled, overlooked, and unworthy had become a familiar ache in his life. But something was different tonight. Something inside him shifted. He could no longer pretend everything was fine. The quiet unhappiness that had settled into his soul could no longer be ignored. A sharp realization struck him. He had reached his limit. Standing before the mirror, he looked hard at his reflection. A 70-year-old man stared back at him. He studied his own tired eyes, ran his thoughts across the creases on his face. Those lines weren't signs of defeat, they were reminders of the life he had lived. Of every battle fought, every love shared, every loss endured. His graying hair and worn features told a story of endurance, of learning, and of growing, yet somewhere along the journey, he had allowed another's judgment to overshadow his own self-worth. That night, in a moment of stillness, he understood something vital: self-love had to take priority. This wasn't selfishness, it was survival. He could no longer let his value be defined by someone who couldn't see him fully. He refused to keep shrinking to fit into a life that didn't honor his story, his wisdom, or his heart. For the first time in years, he made a choice just for himself. It was frightening, but it was necessary. The following evening, he sat down with her, steady and calm in a way he hadn't known he could be. He spoke honestly, explaining how their relationship had chipped away at his confidence, how he could no longer endure feeling invisible. Love, he said, should never demand the sacrifice of one's self-respect. Though he still cared for her deeply, he made it clear, if staying meant losing himself, he was willing to walk away. She dismissed his pain, called him dramatic, but he didn't back down. He stood firm, not in anger, but in a quiet, unshakable knowing of his own worth. It was a painful moment, but also a freeing one. Part of him grieved what they once had, another part quietly celebrated the rediscovery of his dignity. As he left, a wave of mixed emotions swept over him: grief, yes, but also a sense of lightness. For the first time in years, he could breathe again. He hadn't just left her behind, he had found his way back to himself. The days that followed were difficult. Loneliness wrapped around him like an unwelcome guest, especially at night. He missed the sound of another voice, the comfort of someone simply being there. But slowly, the loneliness began to change. It became a quiet solitude that allowed space for healing and rediscovery. He started to see his life not through the lens of regret, but with gratitude. He remembered who he had once been, a man full of dreams and hope, and realized that person still lived within him. He reached out to old friends, rekindled lost passions, and began to do the things that once brought him joy. One day, he looked into the mirror again, and this time he saw not just an old man, but a survivor. His face told stories of courage, of love given freely, of lessons learned. He no longer saw himself through someone else's eyes, he saw a man of strength, wisdom, and worth. As time went on, his world opened up in unexpected ways. He visited places he had only dreamed of, found joy in life's simple pleasures, and laughed with old companions. He finally understood, his value had never depended on another person's validation. It had always been there, waiting for him to recognize it. He learned that the deepest, most enduring love begins within. When we truly value ourselves, we teach others how to treat us. He moved forward carrying this truth: life is too short to spend proving your worth to those who won't see it. Aging isn't about loss, it's about uncovering what truly matters. And what mattered most was this: he had found peace. Not in another's embrace, but in the quiet, steady strength of his own heart. This story is a powerful reminder for older adults who may question their place in love and companionship. The longing to be loved never fades with age, but we must never trade our peace or self-respect to fulfill it. This man's journey speaks to anyone who has ever lost themselves trying to be seen. In the end, he didn't just leave a relationship, he reclaimed his identity. Ending the relationship wasn't easy. It took courage and deep reflection. But in choosing to walk away, he began to reclaim who he truly was. He realized that love cannot thrive in a space where one constantly has to prove their worth. Real love is built on mutual respect, where both people are seen, valued, and accepted for who they are, not for who someone wants them to be. By stepping away, he showed both himself and others the strength of self-love. He put his dignity first. If you're still watching this video and these insights speak to you, comment below to let me know you're with me. This decision became a turning point. He no longer saw the relationship as a failure but as a lesson, a powerful one. It taught him to value himself, set healthy boundaries, and protect his peace. He learned that his worth wasn't tied to meeting someone else's expectations or clinging to the past. His value came from his integrity, resilience, and the courage to live honestly, no matter what others thought. For those in their later years, this story holds important lessons. Every wrinkle and gray hair is proof of a life lived and wisdom earned. Giving up that wisdom just to gain someone's fleeting approval is a betrayal of your journey. Older adults know better than anyone that self-respect and living true to your values are priceless. Here are 5 key lessons for those navigating relationships later in life. 1. Don't chase the illusion of youth. Youth may be attractive, but charm fades. Real connection and respect matter more. Trying to prove your worth to someone who doesn't see your value will only leave you empty. 2. Don't compromise your core values. Love should never demand that you give up who you are. Loneliness can push us into tolerating what we shouldn't. But real love is a place of safety, not struggle. 3. Learn to love yourself first. You must embrace both your strengths and flaws. Without self-love, you risk losing yourself in trying to win someone else's approval. 4. Hold on to your integrity. Your worth is not based on age or fitting in. It's in your truth, your resilience, and the way you face life with honor. 5. Reflect and grow. Every relationship teaches something. With reflection, you gain clarity about what you truly need to feel fulfilled. For him, the relationship became a mirror. It showed both his pain and his power. Walking away wasn't just an ending. It was freedom. A declaration: I will not shrink myself to fit someone else's version of love. Solitude, which once scared him, became his peace. In being alone, he found healing. He learned that being enough for yourself is powerful. That rediscovering your dreams and values in quiet moments can be deeply renewing. He stopped fearing age. He began to honor it. Society praises youth, but he saw that wrinkles, gray hairs, and slower days were not signs of weakness, they were marks of strength and wisdom. Trying to fit someone else's shallow standards would have meant denying the rich, layered man he had become. Instead, he embraced his story, all of it, and with that came freedom. No more chasing approval. No more shrinking to fit. He also learned about balance in relationships. Physical affection isn't just touch, it's a language of love. Though he no longer had youthful energy, his devotion ran deep. But love, he discovered, must be mutual. Affection without appreciation means little. True connection thrives when both people are seen and valued. In the end, walking away wasn't a failure. It was the start of something new. He no longer needed to prove anything, because he recognized his own worth. Letting go brought pain, but also strength. Peace came not from another's approval, but from living in alignment with his truth. Life is too short to waste on people who can't see your value. The greatest love story? The one you write with yourself. As he looked back, there was no regret, only gratitude. For the lessons. For the pain. And for the chance to rebuild a life rooted in dignity and authenticity. Now, I'd love to hear from you. What part of this story spoke to you? What lesson will you carry forward? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Your words might help someone else on their journey too. If this message resonated with you, please like this video, leave a comment, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories that inspire growth and self-discovery. Thank you for being part of this community. We'll see you in the next video.